What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Nothing But Skills, and today we're going to be talking about the Division 2 PvP state of the game that was just aired a couple minutes ago, and you guys should have this video within the hour or so from me putting this video out. Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm a little disappointed on this state of the game. I thought we would get a little bit more information. I thought we would get more information on upcoming PvP things coming. They could be holding out on us. They could be working on these things with new maps, new game modes, and stuff like that. But there just wasn't enough talked about in this state of the game. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over it, and we'll kind of summarize everything they said. And at the end, I'll give you my conclusion. They did address the Eagle Bearer, and I know a lot of you guys have concerns about the Eagle Bearer, so let's talk about that.
We want to talk about one specific thing because it has been getting our attention, and that's the Eagle Bearer. Repeat here now is also that the PTS is a test server. That's literally the name of it, which means there's iteration on there that will, we change things, we, revert things, we add things. So keep that in mind. Whenever you see something on the PTS, it's never final for sure. Like, we can always make changes. It applies to the live game as well, but the PTS is even more, accessible for that. We can make changes between waves. So just keep that in mind. With wave 2, there's going to be a lot of balance changes coming to the PTS. We're going to have increases to weapon damage for weapons. We're going to have, gear set balance as well. There's a lot of things coming that you haven't seen or that we haven't, talked about in details that will give you a fuller picture of what we had intended with the, TU6 balance in general. So just keep that in mind when we talk about anything that is Eagle Bearer related. Now, Frederick said that yesterday on Twitter as well, and we, mentioned that on a couple of different occasions ourselves on Reddit and on forums as well. The Eagle Bearer currently is just too strong. We feel that way still, even with your feedback on the nerf. We understand that there's the requirement that the exotics are powerful and competitive and well liked, but we also think that having one weapon that dominates not only PvE but also PvP, and again it's in both modes. It's not a nerf that is only because of one mode or the other. It's too much for the game. We want to have a little bit more, wiggle room, and we want people to try out something.
So they are listening to the community, and that's a good thing. And I do like one thing they were focusing on right here, where he said that they are doing buffs and nerfs to other weapons. So we could see some of those weapons that aren't being used right now actually being able to be used because they're getting those buffs needed so players can use them. The next part of the state of the game was with the Red Storm, and they talked about their main focus for Title Update 6.
Cool. Let's start off by looking at TU6. So guys, what are our plans for TU6 in terms of the Dark Zone? We had probably like goals set up beforehand. We know that the community is talking about, for example, more active Dark Zones. What are the things that you guys have been looking at before starting on TU6?
We wanted to focus on two big topics for the Dark Zone. The first one was the DZ incentive, right? Making sure that people were incentivized to go to the DZ. And then the second one was full servers. That's really the two big ones we wanted to focus.
Yeah, so, we developed the whole experience around 12, right? That was our benchmark. That's what we tested the whole development. That's what, we all kind of bought into. And unfortunately, a lot of people have never had that experience, right? And there's lots of little reasons for that. But this is the patch where we're taking the big step forward to make sure that, when you're walking in the Dark Zone, there's a really high chance you're walking into a big, active 12-player Dark Zone. So what we're doing now is if you walk into a checkpoint, DZ checkpoint for the first time, and you're not on a server that, is really populated with DZ players, we will initiate a server transfer. We'll get you onto a server with other players wanting to do the same thing you are. And then when you step through the gate, more DZ players will be in there, more people will be coming in behind you, and it'll be a much more active environment.
This is where I was really disappointed. I think there needs to be more than 12 players in the Dark Zone. I've played with 12 people in a Dark Zone. So I had my 4-man team and then 8 other players, and it's just not enough. Like, if you get separated from that group and you're on the other side of the map, it's totally feels empty. I could see at least 16, 20 people would be good, but I mean, that's what they're going with. That's how they built the game, around 12 players. But maybe in the future we can get a bigger Dark Zone. Maybe they have to combine some Dark Zones so that way we get that bigger field. 12 players just doesn't seem enough for me. But it is good that they are focusing on filling up these Dark Zone for people who haven't been able to find 12-man servers. I find them all the time, but I know there are some people who say, hey man, how are you finding these 12-man servers? I don't know, I'm on US East servers and our servers are pretty populated. And they end up talking about something else. So they're focused on fuller dark zones and then incentives. Let's listen to what they had to say.
Cool. So we'll have fuller dark zones. That's, I think, a great step forward. But also we want to incentivize, as you said, to have players, get more loot or interesting things to engage in the dark zone. So we're going to make changes to supply drops. What can you tell us about that?
So supply drops, right? It's so great walking in the dark zone and having an activity already kicking off, or some activity that kicks off that kind of changes your play experience. And people who have been in the dark zone a lot now, they know exactly where those things are going to drop. Yep. They know exactly what encounter they're going to see. We really wanted to refresh that experience and try to get a little more rewards in there as well. So now supply drops can drop inside of inactive landmarks. And it's cool. It gives you a really different experience because those environments are so built around that type of combat. Mm-hmm. And those supply drops are a little special. So you might see faction fights between two factions. They're already fighting over the supply drop, both with their own boss, more opportunities to get loot, or sometimes much larger encounters with multiple bosses of the same faction. So, you'll have this thing where you can kind of pick what type of supply drop you want to take part in and change the experience more often.
Obviously, Occupied Dark Zone is something that we also want to improve, but the Black Tusk apparently have other ideas for that in terms of supply drops. So how does that look?
Yeah, so one thing we've heard from the very beginning, right, is the ODZ. We started with this really kind of Spartan approach, very low signs of feedback, very, very hardcore, no normalization, all those things. And we've been adding stuff along the way, right? A couple updates ago, we added the manhunt system back into ODZ, and that really evolved the experience. Mm-hmm. Now we're taking the next step. We're bringing all the signs and feedback to let you know what's happening in the zone. Opening the mega map, you'll see the extractions happening, all that stuff. But we're also adding some events in too to help pull players together. So now there is a supply drop that can go in the ODZ, but it's a little special. It's only one supply drop at a time, so it's going to be hotly contested, and it's only protected by Black Tusk bosses. So it's a really different experience. It's kind of that ultimate challenge, and also kind of the ultimate dinner bell to get some players PvP.
So I can see that they are adding some more, PvE into the PvP Dark Zone, get players in there, getting them engaging, letting them want to have a reason to go there, so you'll have more players. But those players aren't really going to want to PvP, right? Like, they're going there because they want to get those supply drops. So the problem is when you only have 12 players in a server, you're going to have issues with players getting farmed, and they're not going to have a fun experience, and they're just going to end up leaving. And then you got to empty your dark zone, so then you'll get PvP players in there. But then nobody's really taking advantage of those supply drops or that extra PvE that you're adding to the dark zone. They also talk about a new feature coming called Ambush when you're extracting. Listen to what they had to say.
One thing we've always talked about in the studio, ever since we added those Black Tusk choppers that are patrolling the ODZ, it's been like, man, don't they see your flare going off? Why aren't they coming in here and messing with us? So now there's a low percentage chance. It's it's very, very low. It's not going to happen to you most of the time. Maybe once a night, maybe once a week. But there's a chance that when you pop your flare, one of those helicopters sees it, and before your chopper can get there, the Black Tusks are going to invade, and you can decide, do I want to stick around, maybe get some more loot to put on the chopper, or is this maybe not the best moment for me to do this? Maybe I adjust my plan, maybe I flee and go to the other extraction. So it's just another one of those things that kind of keeps you on your toes, makes the space feel really alive, and leads to some cool moments.
They also talk about the Thieves Den vendor that hardly anybody uses, but they did do the overhaul on it, and listen to what they had to say about it.
We've overhauled the Thieves Den vendor. So now he has an actual storefront, much like other vendors in the game. He'll have a rotating stock of, very high tier items. We're still kind of figuring out exactly what he's going to sell. But the big change is he trades in the Dark Zone resources. So the Dark Zone resources that you've been stacking up and maybe not spending, now they're really valuable. And what's cool is we wanted to kind of streamline it, make it simpler for players, let more people take part in it. So we've taken the 3 Dark Zone resources that were unique to each environment, combined them together into a single Dark Zone resource you can find in any Dark Zone, giving you more containers in the world to acquire it, and also just tried to make it more meaningful. So now the vendors outside of the dark zone, right there at the gate, they'll also trade in that resource.
The next thing they dive into is normalization in the DZ. They are taking that away, so there's nothing going to be normalized. There are a couple talents that are still normalized, but they go a little bit more in depth on that. So listen to what they had to say.
The whole point of the normalization was to let more people play together, right? Get people on an even playing field and let them jump in and have fun together no matter where they're at in the game, right? We have adjusted normalization multiple times already throughout, but this is probably the biggest change that we've made so far. And basically, we're getting rid of really the concept of normalization at endgame. So now, if you're gear score 500, you've recalibrated, you got all your plus 100 bonuses, when you go into any PvP environment, like Conflict or Dark Zone, you're going to have those normalization bonuses. Recalibration bonuses. And we don't want to basically take any power away from you. We want all your time investment to actually matter, and you will have that slight advantage over other players. However, we are keeping the kind of boosting to 500 for everyone below, right? That is the key of it. Getting more people playing together, letting you feel like you can jump in at any point. We want to keep that, but we want to give those endgame players, all the stuff that they've already earned.
Yeah, you worked for it.
Yeah, you worked really hard for it at this point, right? There's still some things like some talents still have their normalization versions. So you'll be able to still toggle in the inventory and see the changes to talents. But for things that are, PvP modifiers, damage modifiers, skill modifiers, which there are more of now, in the next wave of the PTS, you'll be able to actually see those things displayed in the UI, which I think is just going to help a ton with clarity. When you can open up a weapon and see, PvP damage specifically, or PvP cooldown on a skill specifically, it just makes the whole experience suddenly make so much more sense. You can really plan how you want to play, and I think it's a huge improvement.
That right there was a really good highlight of the stream. If they had a highlight right there, normalization is going away, and now all 3 DZs will be non-normalized, and I think that's great. It's better for balancing for PvP, and I think it's great for the community. Just having one standard to meet, and then if you get better gear, you keep tweaking that gear, and you're rewarded for that, right? They did talk about a new feature they're adding in between the games with being able to edit your loadout, and then a new game mode coming to Conflict. So let's listen to what they had to say.
I'd also be remiss to not mention the fact that you can now switch loadouts during map voting.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, man,
That's actually,
I've
Little
wanted
simple
that since day one.
Yeah.
that's
Little
actually a very
simple
good
things.
point.
So we're making sure that improving the experience, not just adding, but we're improving what was already there. So
Yep.
now we can talk
Before
about
you
the new
move
mode.
on, I just want to.
there's a new mode?
There's a new mode.
I just want.
All right,
Go.
so we are adding team elimination, round-based team elimination, more hardcore, 1 life to live. It's a best of 7 rounds. Whoever gets the most wins. It's just a more hardcore experience, a more tactical experience. You really have to work with your team, and it's a whole new thing to experience because there's new boosts. There's a team revive boost. There's proximity pulse boosts. It really just evolves what you've been playing and kind of makes it just super fresh. And it's going to just get inserted into the existing playlist. So it's a new thing you can vote on.
So the loadouts, I'm excited for. I've been saying that we needed that since day one. If you go in, you should be able to edit your loadouts in between matches. You shouldn't just have to stare at a screen that you can't do anything. You should be able to edit your loadouts during that screen. And then the new game mode, the elimination, I think that's a pretty cool game mode to have. But we're still missing some things for PvP. Just reading the chat comments from the Twitch live stream, they were talking about what I've always thought that they should bring to the game. Last Stand, one of the most popular game modes on Division 1. And I don't have the exact stats, but I'm pretty sure at its prime, Last Stand was a lot more popular than Skirmish. And Skirmish is kind of what we have of Conflict. I would like to see an 8v8 in Division 2. That's what I've always wanted. And maybe they might bring this. A lot of these things, they haven't even talked about the content that they're going to be bringing coming up. I think that's in the next stream or the stream after. They're going to show the way going forward. And I think that's next stream should have that. So we should see all the content that should be rolling out in the future. But Last Stand for me would be like, people would enjoy that. You bring Last Stand, PvP community be like, okay, I can see that they're listening to us. More maps. We've had the same map since launch. We're gonna have episode 2 dropping. If they don't drop more maps on episode 2, then maybe episode 3, but more maps should already be in the game. I mean, we have a couple maps. Design more maps. Use the DZ you have right now. Create maps off of that if you need to. But I think we need more maps. 8v8 Last Stand would be good. And finally, give me some survival PvP, baby. Give me that survival PvP. Like, you would bring so many more people back to the game. Drop survival. Have some PvP on there. People love streaming it. People love watching it. We need some big changes to PvP to make a big difference. And I think adding, okay, some supply drops that cause players to want to go in there, but you're not going to add a player count. So you're going to have 4 PvE guys going against 8 PvP guys. They're not going to have a good time, right? They're going to go into the dark zone. They're going to have to get better, okay? Well, why don't you add more players? That way, if they do want to farm, you still have 12 players fighting on one corner, and you might have 8 players farming on 2 different corners. Like, that's what the DZ should be, and that's how DZ1 was so good and why I enjoyed it. You could have people farming, and then you could have people PvPing, and then sometimes those farmers would get a little bit brave because they would see 8 guys chasing 4 manhunts, and they're like, you know what, I want to get in on that action, and they will get a little bit of PvP action themselves, and then that might bring them towards the PvP side. But like, you know what, I'm actually having fun PvPing because I have some backup and I can go fight some manhunts. I can chase them down, but I can still go PvE when I need to. There's a lot of different changes that need to be done. We need more content for PvP, plain and simple. More maps. Last Stand would be great. Drop a survival already. All that, I think, is what this game really needs right now. And what I heard from the state of the game for PvP right now, elimination sounds cool. Yeah, it's cool. I bet you they put a lot of work into it. But besides that, like, we need something else. And hopefully we get that soon. I'm keeping my fingers crossed, guys. There's a lot of big games coming out, and I think Division 2 can get their stuff together. They can bring these game modes. They can bring this content that gets people wanting to play the game over and over and over and have that replayability. It's there. They just got to put the effort in and get us going. Hopefully we see it in the near future. Let me know what you guys think about what was said during the state of the game. I appreciate the support, everybody who watched this whole video, listened to this summary. Thank you guys again, and until the next Division 2 video, Nothing But Skills is out.